Ladies and gentlemen, Fourth and Trollers, welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And we are back after a Thursday night game, and I don't hate myself, man. I'm feeling, this is awesome. What is going on? Oh my gosh, the AFC West. These freaking division games, they're always just going to throw us for a loop here. What a time on Thursday night we had. Wes, how are you doing?
You said you don't hate yourself. That's because you're not a Chargers fan. That's why you don't hate yourself.
Yeah.
I have a Raiders friend, and as we've mentioned, we are Dolphins fans, and I texted him, can you believe both of our teams have put up 9 touchdowns in a single game this year? That is remarkable. I had a blast. Again, I'm not a Chargers fan. I don't hate the Chargers, so it didn't matter to me. But it was just, I texted you, Noah. I went to go put away some dishes, and I was afraid I was going to miss another touchdown. I was so, it just kept happening. Yeah. What a wild.
Unbelievable. I found myself sitting down for it and not even wanting to watch, to be honest. It hit around the time of kickoff, and I was like, should I go to the gym or go on a run or something? Do I do that? No, but I mean, what should I don't, it's probably better than watching this game, right? And then I turned it on and caught the first touchdown, and it was oh, well, they went down pretty quick. That was a pretty efficient drive. And then I left the room and came back, and it was just moments later, and they had just scored another one. And I was like, what am I missing here? And then left the room again and came back, no lie, probably a minute and a half later, and the Raiders had the ball again. And I was like, what is going on? And it was 21-0. It was 12 minutes into the game. And I was like, this is unbelievable. I don't know what I'm watching right now. And we'll talk about it in a little bit. That was absurd. Listen, we got a great show today. Going to talk about Thursday Night Football, AFC West showdown, murder. I don't know what we call this.
Murder.
Yeah, probably murder is what happened. Yep. And I'm surprised that, like Richard Sherman suggested, that Brandon Staley did not get fired at halftime in the locker room. We got a great show for you, though. Got some fun stuff. Thursday night recap, studs and duds. And we just wanted to let you know, actually, at the forefront here, to make sure, as always, you're following us on our socials. Make sure you're following us at Fourth and Troll on Facebook at Fourth and Troll Fantasy. And make sure you subscribe, ring that bell. But make sure you're following us on all the socials below because, guys, this is actually our last episode before the new year. That's right. It's our last one, but we're not going to leave you hanging. We got some content for you coming out over the next couple weeks as we are going to be traveling for the holidays, all that sort of stuff. So make sure you are subscribed, you ring the bell, you get those notifications when we're dropping that content. But make sure also that you are following us on socials. If you have specific start-sit questions, go ahead, comment it on our post. We'll go ahead and get back out to you as soon as we can, making sure we give you some insight from our different locations, as we are not going to be putting out episodes, but we will be putting out content for you over the next couple weeks as we are traveling for the holidays. I feel like I said that 3 times. I think I'm just... Guys, it's hot. It's the holiday season.
I would sing along, but I have a 2-second delay, so I can't. I can't ever sing along with anything.
I almost tried to slow myself down to piece it there, but that's okay. Listen,
it's too late.
We got a fun show. Make sure you stick around because we're gonna give you a little bonus content later on with studs and duds. We'll talk to you about that in just a little bit. Let us get to the news though, because there's some things to talk about, and a surprise inactive for Thursday night that came out late. Wes, what do we have to talk about?
Yeah, so that inactive was Keenan Allen, apparently with a heel injury. Wednesday afternoon, they just said that he was going to be out for the game. Not just questionable, they just said, no, you're not playing. And it's unclear what the severity of that injury is. And the injury could be the team itself was so mercilessly slaughtered that he may not come back at all. But we'll see if he even does return this season for our fantasy playoffs. Just a bummer way to start out for Chargers fans. That turned out to be the best news for the Chargers all week, was that Keenan Allen didn't have to suffer through the game.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. A couple other updates here. Let's start with the Vikings. Nick Mullins will be the starter for the Minnesota Vikings on their Saturday game. They chose to replace Josh Dobbs with Nick Mullins. Also, Justin Jefferson stated that the hospitalization that he was given was to rule out any internal bleeding or broken ribs. He had a chest injury. It's been determined he suffered a bruise, but he will be good to go again this Sunday, again with Nick Mullins as his quarterback. Last news update for Minnesota. Alexander Mattison is dealing with an ankle sprain, and he's going to be out for the week. Ty Chandler is going to be the starter for the Minnesota running backs, again with Nick Mullins under center. What an interesting way. Skull! What an interesting way to start out.
Hug a Vikings fan if you know him.
Week 1. Yeah, week 1 for playoffs. What an interesting shakeup there on an offense. Okay. Jonathan Taylor is on track to play again this season, but his week 15 status is doubtful. And as he has missed multiple practices this week, he may not even see the field until week 17 at the earliest. So just expect, if somehow you've made it to playoffs without Jonathan Taylor, or you are in playoffs and you're hoping that maybe you can get there, unfortunately, you probably are not going to have JT for the rest of the season. Dalton Schultz returned to practice this week. He should be good to go, but his quarterback, CJ Stroud, is still not practicing due to the concussion protocol that he has yet to clear, and he is definitely at risk for missing round 1 of the fantasy playoffs. Chris Olave is dealing with an ankle injury. He will be questionable for this week. And also, Devon Achane is dealing with a toe and a rib injury. The extent of Achane's injury is unclear, but Miami will do what they can to try to rest him. He may still play this week, but be prepared to not have either Olave or Achane this week. Darren Waller returned to practice on Thursday and is attempting to make a return for the final few weeks of the season so that he can catch a few balls from Tommy DeVito as his quarterback. This is not a Tommy DeVito thing, okay? I don't mean to rain on that parade, but
do you see his agent?
It's fun.
At the game on Monday night? Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, I saw the hit
at the game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it looked like Mafia Man. I mean, straight out of a Goodfellas set.
Yeah, it looked like someone told a zoo animal that they were gonna be let loose and free in Queens, and they were like, all right, we gotta blend in, and then that's what happened. So that,
let me get my fedora and pink strap suit, and I'll walk here on the field. Incredible. I'll be this quarterback's agent. He looks like a casting call for Dick Tracy. I mean, we could go on.
Do you think he dresses that way? Do you think it was more like, hey, let's play up the bit a little bit, or do you think that's actually his thing? Wow.
I think he has no idea there were cameras on him. I think he was just trying to be discreet, as a lot of people in the mob do.
I saw him on the phone at one point, and I didn't get a good glimpse at the phone, and I'm sure it was probably an iPhone.
He was probably making an offer that they couldn't refuse. I mean, but
it probably wouldn't have surprised me if it was an old Casio brick phone that had an antenna on it, and he was like,
"Oh yeah,
what's the deal?" Yeah, exactly.
See? Tommy DeVito, see? Look at this. 3-1 as a starting quarterback, see? Better than Daniel Jones, see? Anyway, okay. Last couple of news updates here. Isaiah Pacheco is still not at practice this week with a shoulder injury. And in fact, it's worse than that. He hasn't practiced at all since they played the Green Bay Packers. He is not just doubtful, but is probably going to miss this week, and we'll see if he even plays the week after that. Brian Robinson of the Washington Commanders is struggling with a hamstring injury. He hasn't practiced at all this week. He's likely going to miss this week as well. Antonio Gibson will see the backfield to himself. Should they officially declare Robinson is out, by the time you listen, you may know that update as well. Last two pieces of news. Geno Smith has been doing full walkthroughs in practice this week. He is expected to play against the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, Drew Lock would play if Geno Smith is not ready, but seems to be on track for that. And apparently, we found out yesterday afternoon, that A.J. Dillon just told the media, hey, I broke my thumb. I broke my thumb Monday night, so I can't play. So that'll be an interesting backfield in Green Bay. Hey, that's it for the news. Now let's talk about the Thursday night massacre. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I'm moving past your delivery on that one. That was so.
Thank you.
I heard it and I broke it.
Do you see it? Can you see the broken thumb?
Just like, what?
Goodness.
Have you seen the viral clips of him like playing like Farm Simulator on stream at like 3 a.m? Like it's just
Dillon?
AJ Dillon like streams gaming and it's just like 3 a.m. and he's just sitting there just like staring at his screen as like a tractor is like pulling and like baling all the hay and stuff like that. And it's
wait. So Tyreek Hill is one of the more popular football players.
Tyreek Hill plays Fortnite in a dining room chair.
Fortnite in a competitive game like Fortnite. You mean AJ Dillon in his time off drives tractors?
Just on a
that's his downtime.
Farm Simulator. Yeah. It went around and it was like, imagine having AJ Dillon on your fantasy team and he's just up on a Saturday night at 3 a.m. playing Farm Simulator.
That's so late. Oh my gosh.
It's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, listen, let's talk about Thursday night. Absolute, like you said, just absolute bloodbath and not the good kind. In Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. I mean, Wes, it's no secret. We've said this before. Yeah, we had a great time. It's no secret. We've said this before. We record on Thursday nights after the game and on Monday nights after the game. So we're recording this about 40 minutes after that game is finished. Does Brandon Staley have a job at this moment in time right now, do you think?
It would,
or has he like been fired and they were like, he like went to go get on the bus and the owner was like, put like a clipboard out and was like, let's just, you can Uber.
Who did they do that to? Not the Chargers, but a coach that happened once. I think it was Jack Del Rio, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
I think Jack Del Rio for the Raiders or somebody. They were just like, you're not coming home with the team.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me either way. It would not surprise me if people wake up and they see that Brandon Staley was finally fired. It would not surprise me if the Chargers don't do a thing about it.
Yeah.
Because that's also very Chargers-esque for them. Yeah. Going into the game, I was talking to a friend, and we were talking about what the game would look like. And we thought, obviously, like everybody else, that this would be kind of a snooze fest. We did not anticipate the Raiders to score 9 touchdowns. But we all agree, the football fandom agrees wholeheartedly that Brandon Staley needs to be fired.
Yeah.
And they have used every other person on that staff as the scapegoat. And trying to find the reason why they are not a winning team, why they fail to win and close in the final minutes of games or get blown out embarrassingly as this Thursday night game was. The only 2 variables left from these years of disappointment is Brandon Staley and Justin Herbert. What are the odds that Justin Herbert is the reason they're losing games?
Quite low, given that Justin Herbert didn't play in this game, and they
yes. Absolutely. I'm willing to say it is at most 1% Justin Herbert's fault. But it is unequivocally, it's Brandon Staley's fault. He has to go.
Yeah.
He has to go. People continue to say that Justin Herbert's career is being squandered, wasted, flushed down the drain with the Chargers. And that can change as long as Staley is gone. I don't know if Kellen Moore is the answer, but everyone feels like an improvement over Brandon Staley. So he has to be gone. He has to be fired. I'm praying that by the time you are watching this clip, that Brandon Staley is out the door and they have a different coach for week 15.
Yeah. And I think if you've been watching along this season, I think, or you've been listening to ESPN or SportsCenter or whatever, we kind of know that he's gonna go this off season, but I think this has to be just like the final straw. This game, how's a team that got shut out last week, 4 days ago, a team that got shut out 4 days ago, put up 63 points on you, scored 9 touchdowns, unbelievable stuff. I don't know, it's absurd. Listen, and then the Chargers offense has been talented while Brandon Staley's been there. They've been injured as well, but all that being said, Keenan Allen wouldn't have made a difference in 9 touchdowns scored. So it's not like you can look at Staley and go, what happened? He goes, well, we're missing some guys out there. It's okay, yeah. I mean, that's true, but not the reason why that game went the way it did. I'll say this. I mean, in a moment in which we're kind of rightfully ragging on Brandon Staley right now, I'll give the dude credit for stopping to talk to Carissa Thompson before he went into the locker room at halftime, and her being like, "Hey, Brandon, what happened out there?" And him not just going, "What do you want me to say?" Like, for him to actually articulate an answer there, and be like, "That wasn't us out there. We gotta come back out and play for pride and just try and to be fair, they ended up putting up 21 points. It's better than what it could have been, but I don't know how much pride you salvaged or how much of a job you salvaged by putting up 21 points. So, listen, it'll be exciting to see what the Chargers look like without Brandon Staley next year, and we'll see what that entails, and maybe if Keenan Allen's still around, if Mike Williams can come back and stay healthy, what they're going to do in the draft, maybe what they're going to do at running back with Eckler getting a little older. Like, it's tough because it could be like, hey, if we get the right coach in here and like you got a really talented guy under center and Herbert, like, we could see like some good success here in the division, in the conference, maybe a playoff run down the road, stuff like that. But also, I could very well see this like with the age of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Austin Eckler, and like how much of a miss Quentin Johnston was. I could very well see like the so far. Yeah. I mean, we can't call him after, 14 games or 14 games, whatever it is. We can't necessarily say it was a full on miss, but he hasn't really shown very many flashes. I could very well see this Chargers team being like last in their division for the next like 4 or 5 years. Like, and that's in a division with this Raiders team. Like it's just, it's going to be very interesting to look forward to. Maybe Staley will get a coordinator job somewhere. Sometimes that works out for him in the long run. So
I just have 2 more thoughts, and then we'll talk about the fantasy stats here. The Dolphins did a very similar thing to the Broncos, also to a team in the AFC West. They didn't fire anybody after that game.
Yeah.
That was week 3. That's when it was, oh my gosh, the Broncos look terrible. They're going to have a miserable season. But Sean Payton kept his head up and supported his DC and said, we're going to keep going to work. That's just one game, but we can't sulk in this. We have to move forward. And look where the Broncos are now.
Yeah, they're in a great spot.
There's no more time for the Chargers. That's the difference. There's no more time for them to make a change. You cannot lose 63-21 this stage in the season. Every game matters. But when you are in basically elimination round in the regular season and you lose to a division opponent, there is no excuse. Brandon Staley has to go. And again, the Dolphins did this. The Dolphins have the offense to put up 70 points. No disrespect to the Raiders, but the Raiders do not have the team that I would ever put my money on to get
Josh Jacobs-less Raiders
touchdowns.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs was out. He was out. I can't believe it.
Adams
it's just
wasn't really a factor. It was like defense dominated, special teams dominated, offense dominated. It was
all three phases were phenomenal by the Raiders, and it's just like the worst part. Somehow, the worst part. The Raiders scored 0 last week, 0 points, and they score 63 4 days later. How do you let that happen? There was a graphic on the screen that the Raiders had scored 48 points in total of 4 games combined from the last 4 weeks. I don't understand how a team like the Chargers can let that happen. Khalil Mack's there. Khalil Mack's on the team. Joey Bosa shows up occasionally. I have no idea how this happens. We need to move on.
Yeah,
but I've suddenly been a Chargers fan now. I'm angry.
It's the LA rubbing off on you. There you go. It's finally gotten under your skin. I'll tell you how it happens is one way is that Austin Eckler gets 11 opportunities in a game where you're down many touchdowns the entire game. I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, 6 targets. It's like cool. Like that's pretty nice, and that's all his fantasy production was 4 for 29 in the air and then 9 yards total on the ground. And it was, I mean, we heard rumors coming into last week that it was going to be like, we're going to try and find something going on the ground here. We're going to rotate these running backs, and obviously it was a big rotation. We saw a lot of Isaiah Spiller. We saw a lot of Joshua Kelly, but Austin Eckler owners were pretty encouraged, as was I after last week, after seeing the Austin Eckler performance that we like to see. And this was not one. I mean, he gets like around a 20% target share, I believe, from eating sticks. But it was just disappointment and not a great way to start out round 1 of the playoffs if you're an Austin Eckler owner.
Let me just say, let me call a spade a spade. You lost fantasy playoffs if you made it with Austin Eckler. I mean, unless your league mates made some crazy decisions with trades and drops and you got really lucky in the waiver wire, it seems unlikely that someone that has Austin Eckler is advancing to playoffs next round. It's your first round pick.
I believe. I believe in you, whoever you are, whoever just heard that and just started bursting into tears. If you let us know, follow us on social, shoot us a DM if you have Austin Eckler and you ended up winning in first round, because we'll definitely want
that would be those, great. Actually, I would love matchups. That. If you still make round 2 having started Austin Eckler, you are the king of fantasy.
Yeah, no, definitely. The quarterbacks, Aiden O'Connell throws 4 touchdowns. Great stuff there for him. 248 and 4, 33.9 fantasy points, 6-point scoring, just to remind you guys all of that. And then Easton Stick actually still had like a fantasy day, even though he obviously the game was terrible and went terribly in their direction. But 23 fantasy points from him. I lost Josh Dobbs as my QB2 in a dynasty league, and I had like Jimmy Garoppolo, who lost his job. I had Joe Burrow, who's on IR in that league. So I had to start Easton Stick. I'm on a first round bye, so it didn't really matter. But this makes me not be like necessarily like terrified that I'm going to have him as my QB2. Obviously, it's one game. We'll see what happens, and it's a game where they're throwing the entire time. So we'll see what happens. But not terrible stuff there. But not for redraft leagues and single quarterback leagues. Nothing to consider there for Easton Stick, for eating sticks. But he provided some value in a name where I heard a lot of people asking questions about Joshua Palmer. Whenever Keenan Allen went out, it was a lot of people going, okay, is Josh Palmer the pivot option? Is that where we go? Is that what we do? And had it not been for one play, that would have been the case. But he scores on a 79-yard touchdown on a broken coverage play, and he gets in the end zone, and that's a 14, 15 point play right there for you. So if you had to put him in and close your eyes and hope for the best, It's good stuff there for Josh Palmer. And those are the only Chargers to talk about. So now let's talk about the Raiders, because that's the more exciting side of things. We already talked about AOC. I said Devontae Adams. I'm shocked looking at his stat line, because I said Devontae Adams wasn't much of a factor in this game. He's still an 8 for 101 and a touchdown. And for some reason, like, to me, it didn't feel like watching that game that Adams was like having an Adams game or like doing his thing. It just like it was probably just in the mix of everything, but I don't think I realized he ends up with this stat line. But if you're an Adams owner,
because he had the 6th touchdown of the game, that's why it was.
Yeah,
it was just,
and it was the pass from Jacoby Myers.
Cosmetics at that point.
Yeah. But good stuff if you're an Adams owner. We said Adams is Adams, you start him, and he ended up paying out there. So that was good stuff. I just mentioned about Jacoby Myers, 17.8 fantasy points. When there were rumors, Wes, of Jimmy Garoppolo potentially playing in this game, I was like, oh, maybe Jacoby Myers is like an interesting option here. Maybe we revisit this. I was thinking about doing it in a dynasty league if Garoppolo was going to play. Does not happen, so I didn't do it. But 17.8 fantasy points for Jacoby Myers. Just 2 catches for 32 yards and a gorgeous diving touchdown reception from him. But then he throws that touchdown to Devontae Adams, so boosts you there as well in the fantasy category for touchdowns. And then one more receiver I want to mention, because rookie wide receiver for the Raiders, Trey Tucker, gets in the end zone not once but twice in this game and has a little backflip celebration. Is this a guy we need to be thinking about? Maybe not this year, but potentially next year if the Raiders are maybe going to trade Adams, and if the rumors of Adams is going to reunite with the Jets with Rodgers. Is Trey Tucker's had flashes throughout the season. Is he somebody worth keeping an eye on, but like really only if Adams doesn't end up being on the team next year? Does he have any value if Adams is still there?
I would be more comfortable if he is there. Because he can mature into a top wide receiver. The same the way Justin Jefferson did with Adam Thielen there. Trey Tucker is fast. That is his thing. He is a fast human with 2 legs, and he is booking it. And Raiders fans we'll talk about he's our Tyreek Hill. I've heard people say that he's our Tyreek Hill. He's the Raiders Tyreek Hill in silver and black. So yes, next season, spend one of your late round picks to go get him and see if something happens. But this season, look, for kind of all the Raiders stats, let me just put a big asterisk to all of it and say, like, this isn't going to happen again. Right. I don't anticipate anybody needing to be started outside of Devontae Adams. Maybe we look at Jacoby Myers a little bit more. But, hey, in the end, let's all have a lot of cigars with the Raiders. They're probably having 6 each.
Can only imagine what's happening in that locker room after this big win. Last couple here that I'll mention, and just because it's funny, I feel like it's like, hey, it's mentioned Raiders random skill players night because they all scored. So that's what happened there. Amir Abdullah scores a touchdown. That was his only really big play of the game. He was lined up in the Wildcat. He got a touchdown. Actually, they're not Amir Abdullah. Brandon Bolden, I'm sorry. The former New England Patriots. Third down scat back, Brandon Bolden. But Michael Mayer, rookie tight end, has a good night for him. If for some reason you were starting Michael Mayer, he got 13.9 points on 5 targets. And then Zamir White, this is another one I saw a lot of questions about because of Josh Jacobs being out. Is this a 1-for-1? Do we slot him back in? My personal opinion going into it was you probably have a better option on your bench than trying to just spot start Zamir White in round 1 of the playoffs. But if you did, congrats. 17.5 fantasy points, 69 yards and a touchdown on 17 carries and 3 catches for 16 yards. So, man, what a benefit this game was for any spot starts, any dart throws, anything like that for truly a lot of them. Last one I'll mention, because this was something that I saw some people talking about. Whenever Keenan Allen got ruled out, I saw some Twitter replies in the official posting that was like, streaming the Raiders defense and special teams? Like, is this what we're doing? this week now? And if you did, you're excited. 27 points, multiple defensive touchdowns. I think it was 4 fumble recoveries in the first quarter. Lots of sacks. Just a fun game overall to watch. And we know we like to rag on Thursday night, and we weren't looking forward to this game. And early on in this game, I texted you, Wes, and I said, I don't know if this is the best Thursday night game of the season or the worst Thursday night game of the season. And it was such a good time to watch. I got to give kudos. Fun. I don't remember his name. I think maybe it was Jacob Johnson, number 18 defensive back for the Raiders. But dude, that pick 6 on the screen pass to Eckler, when he just like read it the whole way, full stride, runs in, picks it off one-handed behind him, and then just doesn't even break stride and just goes in. I sent you a photo of my real-time reactions. Jaw dropped. Just, what just happened? Just unbelievable stuff. Raiders fans, enjoy the weekend. Because, man, what a time.
Just win, baby.
Just win. There you go. Antonio Pierce has maybe a little bid here to maybe get a job next year. We'll see what happens. I don't know. This is going to bring us into studs and duds here. And like I said, we're going to give you a little bit of extra today because we are out for the holidays. We want to provide you with a little bit more info, give you a little extra love this week. And like we said, make sure you're subscribed and you rung the bell to get those post notifications. We're going to be dropping a couple videos over the next 2 weeks while we're out. And it's going to be some helpful information for you, potentially for next year for fantasy. Going to give you our thoughts on 2024 fantasy football season. Going to be some fun stuff there for you. And follow us on the socials. Send us any start-sit questions. But since we're doing all that, we're giving you some extra studs and duds. That's right. We're going to give you a stud and dud quarterback, running back, tight end, and wide receiver. That's right. We're hitting all 4 skill positions here. Wes, start us out. You're going to take quarterbacks and tight ends. I'm going to take running backs and wide receivers. Give us your stud and dud quarterback for round 1 of the fantasy playoffs.
Oh, hey friends, how you doing? Congratulations on making playoffs. And if you're not in playoffs and you're still watching fantasy football advice, I have a special appreciation for you because that is very dedicated to this hobby. Okay, so first things first is just a reminder to start Joe Flacco. He's not my stud, but just a reminder because this has been a wonderful surprise seeing Joe Flacco back in the AFC North dominating. And if you didn't catch it in the previous episode, we talked about Joe Flacco is a better option than a lot of quarterbacks, including, yes, Patrick Mahomes, with Mahomes' 7 consecutive bad games. Okay, but here's my real stud, one that we haven't talked about, and I'm ready to just say, let's go with a boy here in LA with the Rams. Let's roll out Matthew Stafford week 1. I
love it.
Of the playoffs because he's fresh off a 28-point performance and 6-point passing touchdown statistics. But that's 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions against the Baltimore Ravens. That is serious. He's up against the Commanders. Come on now. Everybody throws for whatever they want to against the Commanders defense, especially since they got rid of Montez Sweat and Chase Young. They allow the second most points to QBs this season. The Rams are fighting for a playoff spot. They legitimately had a chance to beat the best team in the AFC, to be right there in the wild card hunt for the NFC. They're still hungry, and they proved that they can be a winning team. So I believe that teams that are fighting for wild card spots are the best teams for fantasy, especially this late in the season. Cooper Kupp is playing well again. Puka Nacua is feeling okay. Kyron Williams can take any pass from Stafford to the house, especially in the way they use him in the red zone. So I'm very excited for Stafford to get another 3 touchdowns for you in playoffs. Come on. Now my dud. Just a quick reminder, in case everybody needs to hear this. Trevor Lawrence is not going to win you your playoff game. Trevor Lawrence is a dud. He's been battling this high ankle sprain. It's a miracle he even got to play again this season, let alone the week after. Didn't miss any time. But he had a nice string of things going for a couple of weeks. But you've been rolling without Trevor Lawrence for some time now. He's been on your bench at least. Do you want to start Trevor Lawrence against the Ravens? Do you want to start him against the Ravens? Do you want to start him without Christian Kirk? He just threw 3 interceptions against the Browns. If there's a defense that is as good as the Browns, it's the Ravens. I know Stafford just threw 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions against the Ravens, but the Ravens are not going to let that happen again, especially against a beat-up Jacksonville Jaguars team that is struggling to still win to keep the division. My stud, my dud for round 1 of playoffs for quarterbacks, baby.
I love it. Listen, I think Stafford is going to be fantastic. He's pretty high up there for me this week, especially. He's been on a heater with this offense back and rolling. And Trevor Lawrence against the Ravens is going to be tough sledding. Hopefully he can provide some value for Evan Ingram, maybe Calvin Ridley, but probably not much more going there for you. So definitely good things there for the quarterbacks. Getting into the running backs here. And this is a fun time because, Wes, we didn't talk about this. We didn't tell each other who our players were, but a running back stud is none other than Kyren Williams. Now, this isn't a novel idea for Kyren Williams to be good. He's been a top 10 weekly running back 6 of his 9 games this season. But Washington is so bad. They just allowed 3 rushing touchdowns to Miami. 2 to Devon Achane, 1 to Raheem Mostert. And then they went into their bye week and they sat there and they thought about it and they thought about why they traded Chase Young and Montez Sweat. And they're going to be reminded this weekend that they should not have done that because Kyren Williams is about to pop off. Washington is so bad. I was amazed to look at this stat. I went back and did some research on it. They've allowed 11 touchdowns to running backs over the past 7 games.
Wow.
Look, dude, multiple touchdown scores. Saquon has scored multiple touchdowns against them. Devon Achane has scored multiple touchdowns against them. DeAndre Swift has scored touchdowns against them. It was just
Ramondre
so many of these guys. Ramondre Stevenson had a big breakaway touchdown. It's just so many running backs have done so well against the Commanders this year. They're so bad against the run. Mark my words. Kyren Williams is the RB1 for week 15 in fantasy football, round 1 of the playoffs. RB1. He's going to pop off. Now my dud. I want to jump into this real quick here. It's James Conner. Before his week 13 finish against the Steelers, where he was top 5, he hadn't surpassed 8.3 fantasy points in his last 5 games. Now the blueprint is for the Cardinals to be competitive in games, for James Conner to be good. And I don't know if you've checked the schedule, but the Cardinals play the San Francisco 49ers this weekend. So that's not going to happen. Michael Carter's been seeing more work, and Amari DiMercado's been in there taking snaps away from him whenever he's been healthy. James Conner's going to be an absolute dud this week for the fantasy football playoffs. If you have to start him, close your eyes and hope he falls into the end zone at some point. But this is going to be a bad, bad game for James Conner. So, Kyren Williams, stud. James Conner, dud. Boom. Bonus content for week 15, round 1 of the fantasy playoffs.
Good picks. And I think that I read that Hollywood Brown is back in practice too, so he should be able to be in that lineup. That's going to be a good connection for Kyler Murray in the passing game, so I don't anticipate too much on the ground for Cardinals. I also think might as well roll out all the Rams players you got. Seems like that we're both very high on the Rams against the Commanders. Yeah, Puka, start him. Cooper Kupp, obviously start him. Go get Tyler Higbee. I don't care. Go see what happens there. Is Ronnie Rivers off IR? Roll him out. I don't care. Roll him out. He might get a touchdown regardless.
Yeah.
Demarcus Robinson. Royce Freeman. Let's see what happens,
is he
baby.
Still there?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Good picks. Okay. Tight ends. Let's talk about some tight ends here. It's one of the trickiest positions in fantasy football this season, especially because we've got a lot of interesting names that are doing well. Let me just add a bit of encouragement. Seems like we're going to be watching a lot of this Rams and Ravens game because my stud for first round is Isaiah Likely. I'm loving this guy. We talked about him last episode about how much we believe in him in our Fluker for Real segment. We say that's for real. Pay attention to last year, okay? Last year, when he filled in for Mark Andrews for 2 games, he scored 2 touchdowns in each game, okay? Week 18, something that we don't pay attention to much in fantasy football. Week 18, to help clinch their playoff spot, which they then had to play the Bengals back-to-back weeks. to clinch the playoff spot with Snoop Huntley under quarterback. He still had 103 yards receiving and 8 catches. This guy is legit. He is no joke. That was with Mark Andrews, by the way, week 18. This is no just backup tight end. This is, I think, a tight end that could be starting on many different teams. Fresh off of a 7-catch, 83-yard performance and 1 score, Isaiah Likely is a stud for fantasy. And just a reminder, if you have Isaiah Likely, you probably need a tight end. So start him. Yep. Just roll him out. If you got him for whatever reason to hold him back, consider starting him. Maybe use that flex option to get Isaiah Likely in there and help you get 16, 17 points. Okay. My dud for the week, just a reminder, because it's been a long time since we saw this player perform. Hunter Henry is a dud for round 1 of playoffs. Some people may have thought, in the midst of some exciting games from the previous weekend, we forgot, hey, Hunter Henry just had 2 touchdowns against the Steelers. Maybe that's something to pay attention to. Bailey Zappi is on fire. The first time a quarterback scored 3 touchdowns in the first half since Tom Brady. Bailey Zappi, the next best quarterback. Okay, here's the deal. 1, it was Hunter Henry's birthday. And that's something that players and coaches love to do. They love to just feed the guy who's the birthday boy a lot of football to see if they get in the end zone, okay? Number 2, he hadn't scored a touchdown since week 9 prior to the previous week, and he hadn't scored 14 points since week 2. So that was a fluke. And I know you may be desperate on tight ends, but I sure hope you have better options, but Hunter Henry is not the person to roll out, especially some people might be saying, I don't know, maybe the Patriots are pretty good. Maybe the Patriots are going to just be an upset team, spoiler team. They're playing the Chiefs. I don't know. Chiefs may be falling apart. You know, the way Mahomes had a meltdown. Who knows? No, don't get cute. Not in fantasy. We're not, this is a penalty. We're not doing that here. Hunter Henry's a dud, but Isaiah Likely is my stud.
Yeah, I love it. I love Isaiah Likely, and I think I think you said it last episode, Wes. He could be a starting tight end on like more than half of the teams in the league. Like, he is a very, very, very talented player. They definitely found a gem in the draft there. And Hunter Henry, you shouldn't be chasing the touchdowns here. Bailey Zappi's the new quarterback. No, it doesn't matter. Don't chase those. Demario Douglas should be back, and Ezekiel Elliott's getting 400 targets a game. Don't chase the touchdowns there with Hunter Henry. I love it. Finishing us out with wide receivers.
Yeah, baby.
Dude, so pretty much the Rams are going to rip the Commanders apart because Cooper Kupp is my stud for round 1 of the fantasy football playoffs. Like, it wasn't on purpose that we did this, guys. It's just so clear that this is going to be a bloodbath and the Rams are going to just absolutely rip them apart. Kupp returned to his former glory with 25.5 fantasy points last week. Washington pass defense is god-awful, terrible. I just want to let people know it wasn't a fluke last week with Kupp and that you should put him back in your lineup. And it's right into the playoffs. Can we trust Cooper Kupp again? Yes. It's the Commanders. It's Cooper Kupp. It's Matthew Stafford. Kupp's touchdown that he had was when Stafford was like off his back foot and just kind of like tossed it up, and Kupp like just got under it to where he needed to get to it. That was vintage Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford. That was like I've seen that 100 times before. They're back in a groove. Puka isn't affecting it. Puka is still getting his. Demarcus Robinson's getting his. Apparently, Kyron Williams is a factor, but Cooper Kupp, confidence you can start him in round 1 of the playoffs. Don't be freaked out. He should be good to go here for you. And my wide receiver dud for round 1 of the playoffs. He was the wide receiver 2 last week. But I've got Drake London as my dud for round 1 of the fantasy playoffs. And listen, it's nothing against him. I gave him some high praise last episode. It was great to see him have this kind of breakout performance. He got the high targets. He had some impressive plays. Some big-time catches. But when the Falcons played the Panthers in week 1, Drake London saw 1 target and scored 0 fantasy points. Now, I'm well aware that Desmond Ridder could have changed his tune and that Arthur Smith could be in his ear going, let's get the ball down the field more. Is there going to be another goose egg? No, but you run the ball against the Panthers. That is what everyone has done all year long. Last week, we saw Alvin Kamara have a great game Scored a couple touchdowns on the ground there. And guess what? They've got this hot guy named Bijan Robinson who's running through people all the time. He's an attractive dude too. I realized how it sounded when I said
it. It's kind of
attractive fella, cutie pie for sure. But he is tearing it up on the ground. And I was just in it again. I was like, he is hot.
Oh, they've got this smoking hot running back.
This smoking hot dude from University of Texas.
Bijan? Get Bijan me. Ooh.
Oh
all right.
Oh, my God. Listen, you run the ball against the Panthers. I've seen it before. I've seen Kyle Pitts have a great week. I've seen Drake London have a good week. Obviously, last week was great for Drake London. I just don't know if that's going to be in the game script here. I don't. The Falcons' defense has been a lot better lately. I think they're just going to be running the ball against them. So Drake London, dud. Cooper Kupp, stud. Entire Los Angeles Rams team, studs. Winning the Super Bowl, apparently. I don't know what's happening here, but they will. I'll tell you what, they'll help you win some fantasy Super Bowls. That's for sure.
You'll get to the next round with Rams player. Fire up Todd Gurley, Robert Woods, Sam Bradford. I mean, let's go all the way, baby. If anyone has ever put on a Rams jersey, let's do this, baby. Mark
Steven Jackson,
I'm ready.
Sleeper of the week.
Steven Jackson was sweet, though.
Dude, he was awesome.
Drake London is interesting because that's the one that I don't know because I felt like that was incredible. 30 points on full PPR. I mean, that was awesome. And it felt like there was something that actually happened. A lot of targets and catches.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how that pans out because the truth is Carolina has close games and they just don't have anything on offense. So the games are close, but that does mean the defense is actually reliable enough to kind of put some people in their plays for a few quarters at a time to get them under 25 points, but the offense doesn't get very much. So it's entirely possible. We'll see what happens. And, you know, maybe that's why we bench Falcons players because they all did very well. And as soon as we started trusting them, Arthur Smith was like, yeah, no, Jonathan Smith's going to throw a touchdown to Tyler Algier.
I love that like multiple occasions on this show. Like we've done like other impressions of other people, and it's just a Mahomes impression every time. It's just Arthur Smith's like, hey, we're not going to Travis Kelce on the team. And I agree with you. I think we're in a good agreement spot there. I think this is just going to be. I still have a piece of me that's like Arthur Smith's going to do the wrong thing, isn't he? He's going to do such a wrong thing.
He'll find some way to do the wrong thing.
Division game could be
division
wrong there. They could
as bad as the Panthers are. Division games are
division
no joke.
Game, and the Falcons are still fighting to get to a winning record because they have a chance to host a playoff game. Right now, the Bucs have the 1 seed, but like if the Bucs lose and then the Falcons win this weekend, the Falcons will be back in that 1 seed spot. So interesting stuff to see. We'll definitely pay attention, but tempering expectations for Drake London, potentially not a top 2 wide receiver finish, in my opinion, but we'll see. Listen, that is it for the show. Everyone, hey, enjoy the holidays just because we'll have a little more stuff coming out, but we won't get another full podcast episode to you until the beginning of the new year. So enjoy the holidays, spend it with people that you enjoy spending time with, enjoy everything. Let us know. Drop in the comments, by the way. Are you playing any of these Las Vegas Raiders players in his AOC in your lineup for round 2 of the playoffs? Like playoffs? I don't know.
Playoffs.
We'll have to sit there and talk about it a little bit. Dude, how bananas is it going to be if next week they come out and just drop another 70 points on somebody else? It's like, I don't know who they play, but where did this even come from?
Bound.
Yeah, exactly.
Home field advantage.
Yeah, there you go. And also, let us know who your studs and duds are this week. Also, drop in the comments if you have any other questions about start sits. Like I said, follow us on all the socials. Reach out to us on there. If you got any questions, we're happy to help you out and answer them. Make Teddy Little Troll smile by liking, subscribing, ringing the bell, following us on all those socials, and make sure you're staying tuned because we got some stuff coming for you over the next couple weeks while we are out. That does it for this episode. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been 4th and Troll Fantasy. 4th and Troll Fantasy is a production of FQ Media and Selby Artistic Workshop.